Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm Duffy Duck here once again from the likes of the Maxi Toys videos, and ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our new Let's Play. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our brand new Let's Play for our channel, which is none other than Pac-Man World, released for the PlayStation 1. Now, this game did first came out in 1999, which, Jesus Christ, I cannot even believe how the fact that this game is almost 20 years old at this point right about now, and a year later in our country in around 2000. So even then, as you can see on the actual top portion of this title screen, this is supposed to be a celebration for Pac-Man's 20th anniversary, which, again, that did happen about 20 years ago at this point, well, almost 20 years ago. So even then, though, I'm really looking forward to able to going for this particular game, especially with the entire Pac-Man World trilogy for our entirety of our YouTube channel, because even then, we decided able to go through the chronological order. As you can see right there, we're going to be going through Pac-Man World for this year, because, you know, this game is almost 20 years old for this point, even for the Japan's release and North American's release. So even then, though, and especially noticeable until next year, where I've decided able to, well, I'll explain more things details-wise until later, because even then, yeah, that's as far as I can go. Now, I wish I did done this back in 2017, like originally what I was going to be able to do for this particular game, but it turns out I keep on holding things up for the sake of delaying stuff. And hopefully this time around, though, for this year, we're not going to delay things too much, because other than, well, Piglet needs to still get back into Super Luigi Galaxy at this point. But even then, aside from that, though, hopefully without any further delays or anything like that. So hopefully, speaking of such, hopefully this will be uploaded in every single Wednesdays, Mondays, and Fridays especially. So even then, though, because, well, we'll explain more details about this particular system for later. But even then, though, that the main focus of this particular Let's Play is Quest Mode, aka Story Mode of the game. So without further ado, let's get this thing started with Pac-Man World for the PlayStation.
you idiots! I wanted gold streamers and red balloons! The DJ stinks, the banners are crooked, and the cake should be chocolate! You're gonna ruin my party!
Boss!
What do you want?
Pac-Man's here on Ghost Island! The Pac-Man! I mean that pathetic fool trying badly, I might add, to impersonate you, who is clearly the real Pac-Man.
I thought you had captured Pac-Man!
We did, see? Oops.
If I had a power
A
pellet,
slight error on our part. Believe me, it won't happen again.
You idiots! My plans are already in motion! Pac-Man cannot be allowed to crash my party! Find him and destroy him!
So to kick things off with the first level in this game, which is Buccaneer Beach, which I do apologize for that pronunciation error with this this particular level's name, but even then, that's as far as I can say. So here's the actual gameplay of Pac-Man World as far as this is concerned. It's basically, if you remember from the actual original Pac-Man game from the arcade machines, but except this time around though it takes place in somewhat of a three-dimensional space. But even then, as you can tell, they can able to actually walk around within a 3D plane, but they did have a little bit of a Pac-Man twist to it by simply able to obtain most of the items that you're most likely familiar with in the arcade Pac-Man game, like you're going to be gathering around with these Pac Dots and fruits and even power pellets in addition with that as well. So even then though, that's as far as I can say about this particular point, folks, even though at the same time, this is basically a platformer game. But even then though, like we're going to be spending most of our time trying to able to do a lot of platforming every once in a while. So even then though, that's to be expected at this point. So even then though, that's as far as I can really say about this game. So even then though, as far as comparing to the other games of Trilogy with the actual Pac-Man World Trilogy, because yes, I say Trilogy is because, well, we've decided able to actually just to let us, a little bit of a more of a coincidence anyway, by able to actually comparing to the follow-ups, which is Pac-Man World 2 and Pac-Man World 3, that, again, as I said before, that I'm most likely going to have to focusing on Pac-Man World 1 for this year, and then next year it will be Pac-Man World 2, because I've managed to able to decide to, well, originally that particular Let's Play will be originally scheduled for this year, but I've decided able to delay it until next year in 2020, because we'll go for these series one by one in between each year. So even then though, that's why I've decided able to do that. So even then though, and when we get to Pac-Man World 3, when it gets to the point until 2021, oh boy, this might be very interesting for some of you all, because even then though, well, it might be entirely different from somebody else. So even then, to be expected with Pac-Man himself, as far as controlling him, as far as I'm concerned, you can able to actually control him by simply using a directional pad, or my personal favorite is that you can able to use the analog stick for the dual analog stick controls, and then you can able to actually just maneuvering him in a 3D plane very, very nicely. So even then though, as far as this game is concerned, I'm feeling a little bit more of a middle side when it comes to the actual Pac-Man World Trilogy of games as far as I'm concerned. Like, normally, I'll explain more details onto this whenever we get to the next part, but it wasn't until, like, well, we decided able to actually change things up for slight differences worth noting for. Obviously, that Sonic and Pinkie Pie are still going to be playing through Super Mario Party in between every single weekday, or the weekends, as far as I can say for this matter. And for the actual uploading schedules between this, without any delays and stuff like that, especially noticeable with the other Let's Play until tomorrow, that we've decided able to actually switch things up a little bit, because I've decided able to actually go through Pac-Man World 1 within every Mondays to Wednesdays and Fridays especially. Whilst by the forms of another Let's Play that will be for tomorrow, it will be expecting to able to upload in every single Tuesdays and Thursdays especially, because of all depending of how long these games will able to take to go through, especially noticeable how the fact that we need to get these Let's Plays going before this year is about to end. So even then though, well, kind of think about it, I believe we're almost at the halfway point of 2019 already. So yeah, you probably expect it for that. So even then though, yeah, let's get into the actual continuation of this control explanation with Pac-Man World 1. I usually call it Pac-Man World, but even then, this is the first game in the series after all. So even then, as far as the actual enjoyment with the actual series is concerned, I usually enjoy 2 games most likely, which my favorite will have to be the sequel, which is Pac-Man World 2, with no questions asked, and especially noticeable within somewhere in the middle. I do still enjoy this game, basically, but my least favorite one of all all 3 games in the entire trilogy will have to be Pac-Man World 3, because even then, we'll mention more details onto that whenever we get to 2021. So, it might take a really long time to able to actually get into that though. So even then though, yeah, by the end of each level, you're actually going to be participating of how the fact that you can able to actually do with some slot machines once in a while. And especially noticeable that, as you can see, we collected ourselves 66 Pac Dots, meaning that how much Pac Dots you've collected. And if you collect about, let's just say 100 of them, or possibly more than that, you can actually get yourselves your extra life in the end. So, it really helps depending on how many of those Pac Dots you've actually collected for the majority of the time. So, yeah, trying to collect those Pac Dots is pretty much mandatory for the sake of, like, keep on getting those extra lives in here and there. So let's go ahead and save our game quickly. And yes, if you think about it, the recording method I'm going to be playing through Pac-Man World, which was, obviously, I'm playing this on the PlayStation 3, just because for the sake of the actual quality improvements, and especially noticeable with how the fact that, well, I can able to actually use the analog stick controls in this particular game. So, and every once in a while, you actually come across into the forms of the hub worlds of this game, meaning that you're going to be spending most of your time trying to explore from level to level by able to going through hub worlds once in a while, like the Ghost Island, for instance. And in order to actually get from one level to another, well, we need to get into one of those doors. So in this case, the next level we have is Corsair's Cove. So even then, the first world is basically self-explanatory. The first world is going to take place into is the Pirate World. So even then, though, I've actually kind of thinking about it though, I managed to play Pirate Worlds more times than the future worlds of this game, because, well, the beginning part itself is actually pretty easy, well, for most of you anyway, but it's all later on when it gets to the point until, well, I'll explain more details about the difficulty system later, but for now, we actually stumbled across the forms of those particular power-ups. As you can see, what Pac-Man actually got himself with is Metal Pac-Man. What that thing can do is the fact that if you remember from the Metal Cap power-up from Super Mario 64, Super Mario 64 DS, and you can able to actually walk underwater, but it might be pretty much limited for the time until when that well, at least unlike in Super Mario 64 Metal Cap theme, that it did start to wear out if the actual music stops. But it turns out in this particular game, when it starts flashes, this means that the actual metal power-up will start to wear out. So, but you know, you get the idea for the actual power-ups themselves, obviously. Now, differently from any other Pac-Man games, as far as you can see on this particular top left corner of the screen, as you can see, not only does it able to contain extra lives and all that stuff, we also get ourselves our full health meter, which even then, just like in Super Mario 64, where basically every time you get hit by the enemy, you lose 1 bit of health, but if you lose all of your health, then obviously you'll basically lose a life. So even then, to be expected at this point, self-explanatory, and yeah, that's as far as I can go for this point. So, I think kind of think about it, about the fact that with, you know, this particular game is concerned, well, it did able to get ourselves the digital download version, but only on Japan and North America, because for some reason in our country, we didn't have the downloadable version of the game, which is kind of odd considering, just because I have no idea what that actually represented for. So, but I digress. So, with that being said though, this is actually, to be honest with you, this is actually my, first ever PlayStation Let's Play we're going to be doing for our YouTube channel, because the reason being for that is because, well, unfortunately it seems to say that our Let's Play of Toy Story 2 for the PlayStation 1 / Sega Dreamcast / N64 version of this particular game, well, unfortunately though, that will be deleted because we need to able to redo that Let's Play again, but until when it gets to the point until around the same time as when the movie came out, until, well, let's just say when it gets to 20 years old by that time. But even then, we'll explain more details onto that whenever we're able to redo that game at some point in probably at the very end of this year, alongside with the another game, of course, but we're not going to spoil things too much about it, so even then, that's as far as I can see how this will go. So anyways though, apart from the fact that we've already mentioned about the Metal Pac-Man, of course, we also did decide to mention that Pac-Man also got himself his maneuvering abilities, which even then, aside from the actual jump button by simply pressing the X button, and you can also able to perform a river roll, which basically in order to actually perform a river roll is the fact that you have to able to press the square button, and the more you hold your rev roll ability, then you would able to actually get yourselves a maximum charge input. And even then though, you can also manage to use that for specifically in some platforming sections, but even then though, we'll explain more details onto this whenever we get to the later levels of the game. So expecting as such, then yeah, you probably get the idea for this little scenario. So, and aside from that though, that's as far as I can think about it. And you can also able to perform the triangle button doesn't do anything aside from the actual swimming controls, which I'll explain more details as soon as we get to the underwater section again, like here right now. Now you can able to actually control Pac-Man swimming by simply, you know, using the D-pad, or you can use the analog sticks if you really want to be more precise with, or you can able to actually just to swim down by simply pressing the triangle button, and then pressing the X button can able to swim back up. So yeah, it's very simple though, really. But until whenever we get to the future follow-up installments, which there are, well, sequels for that matter, which is Pac-Man World 2, and especially notable with Pac-Man World 3, where we'll explain more details onto these two titles on the actual year-by-year syndrome. So even then, that's hopefully though things can able to get a little bit more worked out as it used to be. So even then, as far as controlling Pac-Man is concerned, it feels a little bit more nice and kind of thing about it, but there are a few times though that where the actual difficulty itself, well, I'll explain more details onto that whenever we get to like the next level, but not in this particular video, but in forms of like the next video and at that point. But even then, we'll explain more on that later. But for now, let's go ahead and take care of these ghosts, which in order to actually kill or eat those ghosts, well, obviously, if you remember from the arcade Pac-Man games and all that stuff, well, just like in those games, well, you have to eat the actual power pellets until you're able to have the ability to well, eat up a lot of ghosts. So you can then, and also build up your score at the same time as well. So, and also keep that in mind, you need to able to collect those fruits, which is very mandatory if you really want to able to finish up the whole entire game. Because in order to actually get to the very end of the game, well, if you couldn't tell by the actual main plot of this game, or the main story of this game actually, basically Pac-Man and his friends, well, not so much for Pac-Man himself, but Pac-Man's friends, including Miss Pac-Man, they all got kidnapped by the sake of the actual responsibleness, which is obviously the ghosts themselves. But here's the catch to this though, is the fact that we actually have ourselves the entire villain of this particular game, and that will have to be Pac-Man, which is basically the metal robot's version of Pac-Man, but, you know, it might be a little bit more of a devastating look of him. So even then, not sure who's responsible for able to build Pac-Man though? Well, we'll never know until whenever we get to the very end of the game, of course. And, that's as far as I can usually think about it. So, and every once in a while, not only do you able to actually collect those for the sake of these actual fruits themselves, but it's also that as you see those little doors right there, like for instance, we have ourselves the Galaxian item, which is, you know, based off on the most popular Namco games or anything like that. And then, in order to actually get from the other doors to another, well, as I said before, you need to collect some fruits, and especially notable with some occasional Galaxians every once in a while. So until you're able to actually like 100% for everything at this point, in order to actually get 100% of this game, well, I probably will not do it for the sake of this Let's Play, but I'm sure many people already done this before, is that you're gonna have to able to grab every single kind of fruit, and not to mention we need to participate on maze themselves, which, again, in order to actually play for the actual mazes, that you can able to actually change the different angle if you really wanted to. Like, you can either aim it from the actual get close to you, or you can able to actually push the camera back a little bit just to see the actual entire maze itself. So even then though, this is the first maze of this game. Now, unlike in any other sequels for this matter, which is, you know, Pac-Man World 2 and Pac-Man World 3, well, you only have like 3 shots, or in this case 3 chances in order to actually complete this maze. In here, you can able to do it as many times you wanted to, like even then you can able to survive, as long as you're able to keep that in mind with your life system, and if you manage to lose all of your health, well, don't worry, you can able to actually continue things where you left off. So even then, I do appreciate about this particular system, the only thing I don't like about Pac-Man World 2, I will admit that right away, especially with Pac-Man World 3 in mind, you only have like a few amount of chances until you're able to actually just do, you know, go for the actual maze system, which I'm pretty sure Mickey will point things out until whenever we get to that particular Let's Play, until in 2020 and stuff like that. So even then, as a result of this kinds of traditions like this, well, you know, you probably get the idea for that. So, and every once in a while, there's going to be some fruits all over the place, well, surrounding with the actual maze, which you can obviously grab them if you wanted to able to actually add up some more points, especially with, you know, grinding some more extra lives and stuff like that. But honestly, I don't normally seem to care for them. Well, obviously, the fact of the matter is, though, is that, well, again, I'll get into the actual point of the actual difficulty, increasing system whenever we're able to get to the next level until the next video anyway. So even then let's just go ahead and just dodge these little pop-up pirates, or the cardboard pirates I should say, alongside with the actual cannonballs. They just shoot you from like nothing else. So, but that's just how I think it is though. And also, as you can see right there, I've managed to got myself every single letters representing Pac-Man, his name. Now, basically what that can do, if you manage to grab all 6 letters, is that, obviously, you're able to lead you to the bonus level, which, if you really want to able to get yourself your double the amount of time, well, you can able to actually participate in the forms of the bonus levels. So even then, there are quite a few of them in total, well, it's all depending on what world you're in. Well, the only exception, however, though, is the very first level of the game, because in the very first level of this particular game, it's obviously a tutorial world, so even then, just to get used to how the main mechanics worked, especially noticeable how the actual gameplay style as it was, so even then, that's as far as I can usually think about it, so, but I digress. So let's go and activate that little switch. And by the way, the final thing I just want to point things out is the fact that Pac-Man got himself his butt bounce. In order to actually perform that is by simply we need to press the X button twice. So even then, once you can able to jump in midair, and you can do another pressing the X button by simply performing a butt bounce. And that's all you have to really do about this. So even then, let's just go ahead and continue on, and we definitely need to grab ourselves the actual fruit, which might actually be strawberry or, you know, raspberry, although it might not be raspberry because raspberry wasn't in this though. So anyways though, and we need to able to leave the level, but before you leave the level we need to activate the actual cannon, and we need to able to grab could be a strawberry? Yes, it's a strawberry. So even then though, we definitely need to use that until you're able to proceed to the end of the level. So even then, with that being said, I believe we're almost nearly towards the end of this level, kind of thing about it. Especially that we're almost nearly at the halfway point of the pirate world. Because yes, there are a total of 6 worlds in total. Each world actually contains like 4 levels. Well, let's just say 3 levels and 1 boss fight, but except for that 1 world, which I'll probably get into at some point in this Friday. So even then, I'll probably expect things too much. So even then, let's go ahead and just continue on here. Now, you really can't do like the actual spin dash jumping, unlike in Sonic Adventure and stuff like that, and even Sonic Adventure 2. Because if you press the jump button when you're in Riverall, then you pretty much stop for a bit, which even then, it might actually help you in some cases though, but even then, that's as far as I can say about it. So anyways though, as I said before, if you manage to grab all 6 letters representing the actual name of Pac-Man, then you can able to participating in the bonus level. So even then though, in this bonus level here, well, as you can see, you only have about a minute or so in order to actually just to complete the actual bonus stage. And in order to actually get 100% on this as well, I'm pretty sure you need to able to gather every single items in the bonus levels, which I don't think, as far as getting 100% in this game though, it might be a little bit more difficult. Easily one of the most difficult Pac-Man World games I've ever played. Well, at least in the entire trilogy, because, well, I'll get into more details onto that again until whenever we get to the later levels of this game. Because of that though, well, for the pirate world's sake, at least for the first 2 levels of the game, it's actually purely simple and self-explanatory. At least to me though anyway. But again, until later on anyway though, and why do I swim down here? I did not mean to do that. But anyways, let's grab that apple right there. We almost filled up the entire fruit box, including the actual key, which even then, in order to actually get to the end of the game, well, as you can see, we got ourselves a key at the very end of the Corsair's layer, which, what the keys actually do for you, well, until whenever we get to the next level, which I'll probably mention about this in the next video, because even then, everything seems to say we are basically done for this, the first 2 levels here. And the thing I'm afraid to say for this point, guys, is that we got the endings off at this point right there, after I saved my game here. And we got about 15 lives and 4% done. So anyways though, we got the endings off here. So join me next time on Let's Play Pac-Man World for the original PlayStation, or PlayStation 1 if you really want to be more precise with, is the fact that we're hopefully going to be able to conclude the pirate world by going through the 3rd level and possibly the first boss in the whole entire game. So see you guys next time. Later, fellas.